What's up, you sweaty nerds and greasy degenerates? So recently, Honkai Star Rail has received a lot of criticism for how things went with patch 3.0. Myself included, I gave the game a lot of criticism in a long-form video that I recently uploaded. In case you're interested in that, it is in the description. But it sort of prompted me to make this video today going over the worst patches in Honkai Star Rail history. We want to definitely let the devs know about these type of things that we don't like, so that they know in the future that maybe the audience doesn't really enjoy this kind of stuff, and it lets them know what things do work and what things don't, so that they can improve the game as a whole. So it is important that we cover these things. It's not doom posting, guys. It is critiques. We want the game to be better, so we need to give them this criticism. It's how they know. Why do you think they put out surveys in the game? They want to know what works and doesn't, so that they can improve on the game and give us a good experience. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So I wanted to start off with a patch that I think many people would agree was the worst patch in Honkai Star Rail history. I'm of course speaking of patch 2.6. So things started off with patch 2.0 before the patch ever came out, right? With the introduction, the reveal of Roccia, who was a ninja rapper. There was some criticism, some controversy around this character because some people thought the character was racist because they were trying to use black culture to try to like bring in a certain audience, but then they didn't even make the character black, and I don't know why people thought that and then decided to not criticize the ninja part. Bro, she's also a ninja. Like, what are you, like, you're not gonna, that's Asian culture right there. You're gonna criticize the thing for black culture, but not the Asian culture thing. And by the way, just because you are white doesn't mean you can't rap. Look at Eminem. Many of the best rappers in the whole world, like black or not, will say that Eminem was literally the best rapper of our generation right now, right? Maybe Kendrick Lamar is that new guy now. But for many, many years, Eminem was seen by a lot of people to be the best one, and he was white. So I don't see where the criticism came from. I did a whole video covering that if you want to see that. That's also going to be in the description. But let's move on to the actual patch itself. The first patch in Honkai Star Rail history where we only got 1 5-star. We usually get at least 2 5 stars and usually a 4-star, but sometimes we don't get that 4-star, and this was one of those patches, so it felt a little bit lacking in terms of character release, which isn't necessarily bad. We still had reruns during the patch, and to some, they felt like it was a chance to save on Jade so that they can get Sunday or Fugue or something coming up in 3.0. Then the patch drops, and the story was honestly just fucking abysmal. It was boring, it felt like it was dragging its feet the entire time, it just felt long, silly, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys here, okay? There were definitely moments where I just stopped paying attention, right? Like, yeah, sure, I started paying attention again for certain moments to make sure that I gave the patch a chance, but there were certain times where I'm talking to a certain NPC or there's a storyline going on that I just do not care about at all, and so yeah, sure, I give it the time of day, but my mind is totally tuned out because it was just so bad. But as a YouTuber that covers this game, if I'm trying to be fair, I have to give it a chance, right? So I powered through it, used all of my might. I had to enter Super Saiyan 2 just to get through the patch, bro, and it just did not hit, bro. And I really badly wanted to like the patch. Like, I really liked Roccia as a character. I thought the whole thing was goofy beyond reason, and that's funny to me. Just like with Argenti, they walk in the door and you're like, oh shoot, who's that? Looking kind of good. And then they start talking and you're like, oh my god, you're cringe. Oh my god, you're so cringe. Oh my god, this is so cringe. It's actually funny. And I liked that. I thought that was fine. Roccia was fine. The character's fine. It was the patch itself that was the problem. You know, we had justice for Roccia like trending on Twitter because of how bad the patch was and how much people wanted to like the character. Some people literally don't like Roccia because the patch was that bad. Banana. Banana. Are you getting PTSD yet? Because I am. Those stupid little brainwashed monkeys haunt me in my dreams now, okay? Like, I can't look at a banana the same anymore, okay? When I need a good potassium fix after a workout, I can't get it anymore because I look at a banana and it haunts me. It haunts my dreams. And the crazy thing is, I felt like patch 2.6 had potential, but the execution just was not there. It's kind of like with patch 3.0 with Amphorius. Amphorius is a Greek mythology themed world, bro. The environment is fantastic. The world itself is great. The problem was the presentation, and Honkai Star Rail just was not up to par with the execution for that patch. And in all fairness, this was a filler patch, right? 2.6 was the most filler out of all filler patches we've ever had, but it just felt lazy. It just felt like it was genuinely just there to waste our time, to fill the void in between then and what was going to come eventually in 3.0. But when you look at 2.7, 2.7 was a shorter patch. The story was just sort of there. It wasn't anything good. It wasn't anything bad. It was just fine. It was just there. That's the type of filler patch I think people would be okay with, even if it's not their favorite. But 2.6 just wasn't it, champ. They tried to gamble on something out of the norm, and it did not pay off in this case. But let's move on to a blast from the past, but not a blast in a good way. I'm talking, of course, about patch 1.5. This was easily the former champion of the worst patch in Honkai Star Rail history before 2.6 came out, and mostly that was because of the event for patch 1.5. The event for patch 1.5 was as long, if not potentially longer, than some of the main story quests for certain patches that we've had. For example, patch 1.5's event took longer to complete than probably the entire patch 2.7 story. Just think about that for a second. Patch 1.5's event starts off just fine and dandy, right? It's even got a cool theme, right? Like, it's got like a ghosty, sort of paranormal, almost Scooby-Doo-esque thing going on, but then it doesn't really go anywhere. It just sort of, it seems like a slice of life sort of like anime that just doesn't do anything, right? It feels like it's supposed to be leading up into some really big payoff, but that never happens, right? The best that we get from that event is that there's like a little bit of a hint that maybe Ting Yun might just be alive, guys. But bro, if you were paying attention during the Xianzhou Luofu arc, you would already know about this. So you're trying to tell me we spent like 10 hours or something like that on this event just to find out something we already know? Give me a break, dog. And patch 1.5 had potential as well, dude. Like, Huo was released during that patch, Argenti was released during that patch, and Hanya was released during that patch. And Hanya and Huo fit the theme of the event. And then Argenti, his whole quest thing, that was sort of out of nowhere, but it was goofy, it was funny, and everyone was okay with that. That's fine, right? It's because of that 2.6 will always be worse, because at least the Argenti stuff was entertaining. Right? It was a spin-off. It does practically nothing for the actual overarching story that we are experiencing with Honkai Star Rail, but it was still fun and enjoyable to some degree, right? But the event took longer than the actual story of patch 1.5, and it was the least enjoyable part about the entire patch. If this event would have just been better, the patch could have been saved. It might have even been potentially seen as a good patch, but unfortunately, that's how bad the event was. And I mean, like, some people didn't even like the Argenti story. They thought he was weird or cringe or whatever, and that's their opinion. That's fine. I thought it was okay. Again, I like to try to be fair here, okay? I may have felt like the patch overall was not good, but I'm not gonna sit here and like lie to you guys or pretend like the Argenti part wasn't in some way fun, goofy, or enjoyable. The memes were great, bro. Argenti's a goofball and we love him. And I don't necessarily want to use this next part as a reason for why the patch was bad, so keep that in mind. I actually pushed this to the side and didn't include it in my criticism for why it was bad, but I do want to point this out because it just sort of added to the negative sentiment that a lot of players felt. What I'm getting at is that Argenti released with a pretty bad bug on release. What I'm getting at here is that his ultimate is the most important part of his kit, right? But when his ult initially goes off, it's fine, but then after that, the extra hits are all supposed to randomly direct to a bunch of different enemies. However, if there's only one enemy left, they're all supposed to navigate to that one enemy. Think of this scenario, right? You use his ultimate, there's 5 enemies on the field. It hits all of them, all of the mobs die, and only the boss is left on the field. The problem, the bug, was that for some reason, all of those hits would still randomly redirect onto dead enemies who aren't even there anymore. But it would literally attack the dead bodies of the enemies, the ghosts of the dead bodies that weren't there. Kind of ironic because it was a ghost-themed patch and you're attacking the ghost. You get that? Anyway, stupid joke. And that bug was pretty bad to Argenti, right? He's an Erudition character, bro. Back then, Erudition just did not have the juice, bro. It wasn't until Pure Fiction that Erudition started to be seen in a different light by players. And now, even in normal content like Memory of Chaos, the Herta has made people look at Erudition differently. But back then, it was way different, and Argenti was already seen in not too, kindly of a light, right? And this bug just made him seem even worse than he already was. But by the time it got fixed, the damage was already done, and people just left Argenti at the wayside. The poor guy after that had to take a detour to Washtopia so that he could, cleanse his mind of all of the scars that players left on him. So for the third place slot of worst patches of Honkai Star Rail history, it's a bit harder to truly finalize a decision on this. So I'm going to run through some of the options that we have, and maybe you guys can help me decide a finalized third place slot. So let me know in the comments how you feel about this and what you feel like some of the worst patches are. Let's go over this. So I want to cross off 2.7 from the list. I think we can do that because despite the fact that 2.7 wasn't great, it wasn't bad, right? If you were playing on the English version, you probably felt worse than most other people because it had a lack of voice lines, which is definitely not very enjoyable. But if they had the voice lines, I do think it would have been just sort of okay. It's not great, it's not bad, it's just sort of there. And as a filler patch, that's not great, but it's okay. It's passable. Now, Amphorius Patch 3.0. This one is going to suffer from a bit of recency bias because it's literally still active, so we have some immediate feelings about it and how high of expectations we had for it, and bro, it did not meet those expectations, so we're gonna definitely not feel so great about that. We didn't necessarily have incredibly high expectations for 2.6 or 2.7, knowing that they were filler patches, right? We had very high expectations for 3.0, and so we're gonna feel extra bad about it, but that's because we should, because 3.0 is a brand new world. This is the first introduction we have to a brand new world for Honkai Star Rail, and it just didn't have the juice. Now, taking a look at filler again, because often those aren't necessarily going to be the best patches. There's some exceptions, of course, but looking at patch 1.6, for example, I think we can cross that one off the list as well because that was actually a pretty darn good patch. We were introduced to Dr. Ratio, who we got for free, and he was immediately a meta impact, even though the follow-up meta hadn't properly taken off yet. He was still an impact, even on a debuffer team. And we also got Ron May. Ron May, it was literally the best character in the game for a super duper long time and is still super meta relevant, especially because of the break synergy, right? Breaks are still, strong, even though things are moving towards different metas. It is still relevant to this day, right? And in patch 1.6, we were also getting a pretty darn good story. Yeah, it was some side story. Yeah, it was partially set up for Penacony, but it was still good at the end of the day. We also got a really, really good simulated universe event. Dude, that was a really, really good time, patch 1.6. And bro, Duke Inferno. I'll say it again, baby. Duke Inferno, okay? That was the most hyped guy. That was dude, I gotta say this, okay? Why did they get us so hype over the friggin' Annihilation Gang only to kill them all off of screen? Bro. But one thing to remember is that Duke Inferno was involved in that story for patch 1.6. But they killed him off screen in Penacony. That's a Penacony problem. All right, this next part is going to be a little bit controversial for some, but I think many of you would agree with me if you're thinking about it fairly. Penacony had issues of its own too. What I'm getting at is patch 2.0 was great, patch 2.1 was great, but patch 2.2 and patch 2.3 suffered. Patch 2.2, for example, had some of the best moments of Penacony, but it also had some of the worst moments of Penacony, right? That was when we solved the watchmaker mystery, right? And back in 2.2, I was the only person on YouTube, you think I'm exaggerating, the only person on YouTube that solved the mystery of the watchmaker, that Misha was the watchmaker all the way back in 2.0. If you want to see that gem, that's also in the description. But without tooting my own horn any further here, that watchmaker situation was great. The Acheron battle between Aventurine, that was great. But there was remember the fake out? And remember all of the black screen with white text over it? That's when the black text with white screen stuff started to get bad in a way that we'll never feel the same about seeing that black text with white, writing over it ever again. We'll never feel the same about that ever again because of that patch. And the fake ending, remember the fake out, the fake ending stuff? They spent hour after hour after hour dragging our sorry butts through that whole thing just to fake us out. Bro, and it was such a mess that people thought there was plot holes all over the darn place, and there very well might be some plot holes in that story as well. And they had to they realized that there were plot holes, and so they had to waste time fixing the plot holes that they created earlier in the patch. It was a bit of a mess. And on top of that, remember, we were all excited that Penacony, that fucking, this patch was going to be the patch where someone might die. There was going to be drama. We were excited about this, and not a single soul actually passed away on that. Not a single playable character actually died. Bro, have some balls. Have some balls. And then patch 2.3 was pretty much there to fix some plot holes, wrap everything up in a nice little bow, and introduce some new characters, I guess, right? So it didn't exactly feel super duper great either. But again, it was more of a patch that was not great, not bad. It was just sort of there, right? So I think if we're going over this fairly, we have to give the third place slot for worst patches of Honkai Star Rail history to patch 3.0 from Amphorius, as crazy as that is to say. But dude, yeah, sure, the patch isn't completed yet, but what do you think's gonna happen between now and the end of the patch that's gonna change our minds? Nothing, right? So let's briefly go over my picks for this list. Between the douche, the turd sandwich, and the flaming pile of cringe, we have at first place patch 2.6. Then at second place, we have patch 1.5. And coming in at the last slot, third place is Amphorius's patch 3.0. Let me know in the comments what you think the 3 worst patches were for Honkai Star Rail history. And if you guys like this kind of stuff, consider leaving a like and subscribe. I think we might do a tier list of all of the patches that have ever been released in this game. I might make it a stream instead. You guys let me know what you think. Do you want to see a long form video that's probably over an hour long for that, or would you rather do a stream? Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.